want one of those nice rockers.
I do.
You gotta go back.
I'm so trying to be really
Yeah, that was very soon. It's on this board.
What happened?
What?
It's like
It's on this board. Yes. Oh, yes?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Right. I'm good. I'm still trying to find.
You know, we think we're. You know, every celebrity in sports.
All right, I think we're good when you're ready, Lori.
Okay. I'll go ahead and call the meeting order. January 9th, roll call.
Abby Samuelson,
Aaron Young.
Tiffany Gatesman.
Bill Palmer, Parks Thompson,
Or Newman.
Keith Fitzgerald,
Katie Souls.
Nick Crab.
Going on to approval of the agenda. Questions before we approve it? From my friends, I'm going to approve the agenda.
second.
Alright, to approve the consent agenda.
6, 7, 8.
From December 10th. Yeah, did you want any questions or comments about the agenda?
For the minutes.
Excuse me. Okay, I move to consent the minutes from December 10th. Alright, all in favor.
I'm sorry, who seconded
Who was
that?
the second?
Oh, thanks, Parks.
And then, alright, open forum, open topic for discussions, not already on the agenda. Anyone online?
I did have one thing I wanted to discuss, if that's cool. I wonder if there's a way that we could help the town and businesses help clear the sidewalks with snow and ice, because it's really been already an issue. I know it usually gets worse around like March-ish, where it's just like sheets of ice on the sidewalks, and I just kind of it's already worse than it was at this point last year, and around like March it was almost impossible to walk on the sidewalks. If we want this place to kind of be more of a walkable, accessible area, that's going to need to be a point of emphasis for us pretty soon here, if not like right now.
And echo that, I'm putting Nick with Paul Johnson, because right now the town of Fraser's development code requires surety and bond all public improvements, one of which is sidewalks. But then the town doesn't clear the sidewalks and it's your maintenance responsibility, so it doesn't make the most sense, and I agree that the town cleared the sidewalks, or found a way to plan that. It would make the walkability a lot better, and, you know, people aren't gonna walk somewhere where there's 6 inches of ice, so I'm all in favor for that, if there's a way to do it. Do they not plow on the west side? Another plow on the west side, on the east side. Side by side, goes by, the east side, by your building, right? I don't know if the sidewalk's wide enough for that thing on the west side. I think a problem is quite often, I wait to see what they do and then we snow blow it, yeah. The problem is there's cars parked there, but the little side by side, whatever you call it, you know, the little thing, it does clear the sidewalks on the east side, so I assume they do it on that side, unless it's a smaller sidewalk.
So my understanding is that by town code, the sidewalks are the building owner's responsibility, but the town has historically and continues to help clear them. I know I've had conversations with Paul Johnson about this. I think it'd be great if the DDA could do something to improve walkability because it gets really difficult. I think some of it is just the kind of freeze thaw cycles that we have here. If somebody's not constantly maintaining it, even if they come through and clear the snow, you're going to get other runoff and stuff slushed up there. So some of it I think does fall on the buildings. That's what I'm all for exploring ways to improve it. I know we've talked about trying to address drainage issues and things like that I think would be larger but worthy projects. So I'm all for continuing that conversation. We could see if Paul Johnson is available to maybe come in February and talk about more short-term as well as long-term possible solutions and suggestions.
Does that come to also snow storage? Because like sometimes like a cross section will be blocked or like things change a bit.
It could be, yeah, if you guys are seeing where snow is currently being stored as being problematic. I mean, I know they have limited options sometimes, but it's something we could look at, discussing.
It's on a cross section, that's just early on the day. And then they move it later,
I was just gonna ask.
Just
it's
they'll
like-
do it, they'll make mounds on Easton, but then in the afternoon, when they have time to get through.
They come and clear it. Yeah.
So if it's a manpower issue, would we be willing and able to possibly hire a third-party company to help?
I will say, I know we've had some equipment issues this winter, which could be a part of the current issue. We are working through resolving that. But Nick, I will say, I know in front of your building, there is a big drainage issue, basically between Fraser Avenue and and Eisenhower. That I believe that they are addressing with redoing the sidewalks there in front of that area. And I think looking at the drainage, which again is more of a long-term solution.
Sure. Like, I know that most of the walking areas on that side of 40, like over by Fishers and over by like the Shell station and all that too, are major hazards. Like I need to wear my yak tracks, and I know that most tourists don't wear them. So it's not just like my building and the winery.
Agreed.
It's also all of that area because it just doesn't get much sun. So if there is any way to kind of like mitigate that, that's just one thing I wanted to explore.
Yep.
So
And this would make a comment, like, so the new crosswalks are great, right, for the fishers, but the snow gets plowed over the buttons and you can't use them. Or you can't access them because they're like 6 feet away, so making sure that those are accessible, and then the ice actually like. When you're coming off onto the road is really hazardous.
Okay.
And then I don't know if that's gonna be, that's kind of like,
Yeah,
that's the crosswalks, I don't know who's responsible that would be.
and I guess like being married to a snowplow guy, I can see that the manicuring and the detailing aspects is probably like. Really hard to do. And that might be the salting and the detailing that comes like after. Because I mean, if you're in one of those things, you're probably focused on cars and humans. And getting the job done. And then some of the other stuff is super easy to just.
It's expensive, so when you
Yeah.
lay down a bunch of salt, it creates a lot of slush, then you gotta clear the slush. It's like
Oh.
a big process, or you lay down a bunch of dirt, and it gets nasty.
Yeah,
So it's kind of, he's right about the drainage, it's gonna have to be like a full-blown construction thing most likely to get it that side of the road proper.
who does it well? Is there a town?
I mean, well, I mean, you can just do what Steamboat does and like lay in like serious infrastructure and. Heated sidewalks.
Yeah, we looked into geothermal and unfortunately that is not happening at this moment, but I do want to, since this is not actually an agenda item for today, I do want to keep moving, but I will relay these comments to Public Works and snow removal. I think we all recognize it as a problem and a worthy cause. And maybe see if they can come to our next meeting and have some discussions about ways the DDA might support improving that.
awesome, I appreciate that.
Thanks. Great, any other topics? Okay, Moving on to a resolution 20250101, for the meeting posting place for DDA meeting notices.
Yeah, so this resolution, a very similar resolution, was signed last year at our first meeting. Statute does require that at the first meeting of each year, we have a new motion or resolution designating the public posting place. So this does require, and they do want you posting them online and then having a backup posting place if for any reason it cannot be posted online. So this would have the Downtown Development Authority meeting notices and agendas would continue to be posted on the Town of Fraser website on the Agenda Center no later than 24 hours prior to the scheduled regular DDA meeting. Again, we do try to get those out the Thursday or at the latest the Friday before the meetings that typically take place on Tuesday. If for any reason it is not possible to post the Fraser Downtown Development Authority board meeting notices and agendas on the website, an agenda may be posted at the Fraser Town Hall. We can also endeavor just to post them at the town hall in addition to online, which I have not been doing, but will work on doing. But this would just state that we are continuing to post them where we've been posting them.
Have I seen the town, the town board minutes posted at the Fraser post office before? I'm pretty sure it's the agenda.
Just the agenda.
Because we could always put them there.
You know, I believe that this is where we're mandated to, but staff does try to get them up at the post office.
Yeah.
Because that's the most visible spot to the
Totally.
public.
Right.
But if it's legislated and given the absolutely have to do that, then it comes up. and-
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
Right.
so that.
You're correct. Yep.
Preferred but not required.
Right.
Yeah. Good call.
Yeah, we can work to post physical copies at the town hall and the post office, space permitting. I know that spot over there gets pretty filled up pretty quickly, but
Our
Yep.
recommendation was to like social media, like links on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
It's more work, but it'd be, you're fine for everybody. It's hard to navigate the site sometimes for other people that aren't, they coach through it. So,
Because it was on the website, I could just go into the, which I'm kind of on there right now, you just go into the, what am I looking for?
the agenda center.
No, like on
Like an archive of some kind.
the profile, so there'd be a link that goes to,
You're talking about the DDA social medias. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
so that would be an important thing to capture.
I think we should do those things, but just mandate they post it on the door.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because Whoever's doing.
I think it should be that this is that we can do it, those things in addition to.
Yeah,
that one, make it mandated.
Yeah, and we'll talk when we're talking about stuff later on. I am planning to send out an email to all Fraser businesses with some updates regarding the ski training and business enhancement grants, and I can just include a reminder. I've previously sent it out, but that they can subscribe to receive notifications whenever agendas are posted. And if any of you have not done that yet, I would encourage you to do that. But just keep that in mind as a tool as well. If people you're talking to are interested in knowing whenever there's a meeting, in addition to going to our website, they can also sign up to get those emails. So it will notify them when those agendas are posted.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025-4101. Designation of place of the DDA meeting notices.
All in favor?
Hi.
Right, anyone opposed? All right, moving on to designation of board member and board member. Okay.
So Angie did send an email, which is included in the packet, resigning. Our bylaws do require us to accept her resignation, and then we can discuss what we want to do in regards to that open seat. But basically just availability wise, her schedule is really tough and this meeting time doesn't work for her availability. So she'd love to be involved in the future, but at this time is relinquishing her seat.
Make a motion to approve it.
Yeah, to accept her resignation.
Motion to accept Amy Wonderful's resignation from the board.
So who's
I,
the
no,
first?
I said, I don't know. Someone make the motion, first motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Angela Nichols' resignation from DEA.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
I,
Is that it? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the open seat.
Yeah, so in terms of the seat, ultimately it will come in front of the Board of Trustees. I need to remember to add that to our agenda. As to whether or not they want to fill that seat and how they want to go about that. There's a few different options. We went with a larger board because we received a lot of applications. We wanted to capture that momentum. I think there was somewhat of the idea that there may be some attrition over time that we might just let happen. And, you know, in the future, there might be a smaller board. So we can fill it or not fill it. And really, this body would be providing a recommendation to the Board of Trustees of what you would like to see happen. We could fill it now. We have seats that are coming up open in October. So we could also wait until then and look at those seats collectively. Or we could fill it now. We could look at the person who had the next number of votes and see if they wanted to step into that position, or we could, you know, put something out there and accept applications. So it's really up to you what you would like to see happen. But again, ultimately, it would be the Board of Trustees that would make that decision.
They're just waiting till October. There's enough here.
Was she, do we still have like one of every type of person, like the resident?
Oh, yeah.
property owner?
I think they all, yeah,
I agree.
I think so. I think all three, yeah, and are we cool with it? But there's, because there's 10 of us now, so it's.
There is an even number. Ideally, boards are an odd number. My thought on it is we often don't have somebody present, so
It's unlikely that there'll be a 5-5 split.
I think you could, yeah.
I agree.
I mean, we need a quorum
Yeah.
for anything to pass and to, you know, officially hold meetings and make decisions. Our quorum number doesn't change, so I guess that's a slight disadvantage. But we haven't really had an issue with attendance in this group. Like, we've generally had more than a quorum, so I think we're fine staying with 10 at least until October when we revisit those board seats. And we can talk coming up about what that looks like come October.
Yeah, right, exactly, so.
Sorry.
So it's like.
Right,
there's-
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of going to October. Revisit the policies.
Okay,
I think a motion for that would be appropriate.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would like to move to hold off filling this open seat until October.
we're recommending to the Board of Trustees.
Make a motion to recommend to the Board of Trustees to hold off on adding a new member until October.
All in favor? Okay, the next topic is tax increment investment policy.
Great. So this was sent out earlier last week as a working document, and then also included in the packet was the PDF. So we do have Troy online. I was going to let him kind of touch base on some of the changes and updates that were made from our last meeting, and then you can talk through any questions or comments that the group has.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see all of you in the new year. I'm not going to go through this page for page like I did the first time. Sarah did send me a document this morning with some comments. I've not had the time to incorporate those, so bear with me on those. I used a few different sources for improving the first version of the policy document that I shared with you initially. One was my notes. The second was a kind of a good and helpful grammar check from Sarah that I went through. So that informed a lot of the kind of changes. And the principal changes really start at the top of page 8, where I initially mentioned, the facade or grant program, that's now memorialized in its own section, okay? So up until about page 9, is a lot of cleanup. Same
Is it
with,
helpful if I pull this up, or are you guys all able to?
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are the.
sorry,
changes
Sarah.
from-
No, that's okay. Let me just give me a
meeting.
second to share.
Sure, I can share as well.
Do you want to, is it easier for you to share?
Yeah, let me see.
Mhm.
I'm having some quirky.
Either way, I can do it. I just don't know if it's easier for you to kind of scroll through as you're talking, or I can pull it up.
Okay, sorry. I'm having some mouse issues here. All right, share. All right, can you all see this now?
Yes.
All right. So here is where I started my comments regarding the revisions. Here is the section that mentioned the grant. That's now memorialized in a different section. More cleanup on this page. This is a red line, so don't pay attention to the formatting or spacing. It's all jacked up in this particular version. You should have the clean version that was provided to you. Incorporated the scoring matrix that was pleasantly some more work than anticipated, but I think it ended up becoming a more robust conversation around the scoring matrix, the process, etc. I tried to incorporate the board's comments about the scoring matrix page itself, as well as applications. As I was getting into, before I do that, the guidance, investment guidance or investment parameters, I changed this section quite a bit. We had some conversation around this section, and I felt it needed more work than the initial conversation warranted. So I really actually beefed up this section and hopefully made it more easier to understand. And then section 6 is where we do the improvement and facade grant programs. We talked about a facade program. I felt it was necessary to kind of bifurcate it a little bit. We can unbifurcate it if you want, but I felt that this gives you flexibility in terms of doing a facade or doing something else on a particular property. And so I go through here. This is obviously all new content. Grant proceeds for eligible costs. This is a range and a helpful guide. Again, I think you all know how I feel about policies. They're not law, and they're meant to be dynamic and grow along with the organization. Anything highlighted here is something that I've used in the past or I've seen in the past, and that is more an optional item than a necessary one. Go into the application process. That's another new section of new content. This is existing, and then we go into the scoring matrix. Try to adjust this based on our conversations. Of course, this particular part is open, and the whole document's open for conversation. I did hear a comment about giving an applicant a better and more informative view on this page, so hopefully I accomplished that. And then we have two potential applications here, one for improvements and one for facades. We can talk about kind of the differences in the parameters, but those are the principal changes in the document. And I would say that this is probably one of the more robust policy documents I've put together. And that's thanks to you and all of your initial comments. With that, I'm happy to take any more. And continue to make this a fantastic working document.
Well done.
Great.
Yeah, I thought the changes looked great. I was gonna suggest that maybe we bring back the facade and improvement programs to our next meeting to talk about if that's something we want to do at this time, because it's kind of presented in this document as something we are doing. And right now we are supporting a Town of Fraser business enhancement grant. We have talked briefly about possibly offering kind of supplemental awards to some of those or a complimentary program. But given that that's not something that we actually have on the books right now, I think it warrants a further discussion if given limited funding, if that's what we want to put that funding towards this year, which I think we could do. We could, and I think we could structure that a couple different ways, but would just want to make sure that the language we have in this document is kind of reflecting what we're actually have on the ground or what we're potentially considering. And if we're considering it, just kind of changing that language to support that.
Right. And I've done that before where I put some pretty simple language at the direction of the board or upon implementation, something like that. That's a pretty simple fix.
And is it complementary to the town's policy and list of parameters?
I more or less, yes. And honestly, I tried looking at this document a few times towards the end of the day and was like, I need to look at this first thing in the day, which didn't happen until I started yesterday. So I would like to kind of line it up a little bit better, maybe with the business enhancement grant. I think some of the stuff that Troy has in here, we can use in evaluating the business enhancement grants.
Yeah.
Minus in terms of the town's piece, we don't have to require that it necessarily fit exactly with the vision of the DDA, since that wasn't the intention, but there's also some sense in having that because there is that overlap. So I think they can work well together, maybe just with a little bit of tweaks in language and criteria, and then also using what Troy's put together to potentially, again, kind of enhance our criteria for the town program as it makes sense.
That's right. And I do think that the two should work together. So I appreciate the comment. But from my perspective, the only real distinction between what the town's doing and the DDA has to kind of invest in something or pay for something or fund something that's of public benefit per the statute as outlined in this policy. So, you know, there might be some limitations to that, but not really many.
Another difference, the DDA will fund for a project in the boundaries where the town is going to create.
Right.
Can be anywhere.
Correct.
Like that.
Mhm.
And I just had one little formatting question at the beginning. I loved how you used our logo colors on your highlights.
Oh, thank you.
Sections, but the very first one, the yellow, it needs to be deeper and brighter, thinking about the American with Disabilities Acts and how they're looking through websites. I think someone with visual challenges would not be able to read it because it's so light.
Okay.
So
So which one is that?
Yellow. I think it was on page, it's right at the very beginning.
Yep.
No,
Where the every journey is connected.
I don't have it in front of me.
Oh, okay.
A time per section.
Okay.
It's just a light yellow and just make
Yep.
that picture, but I thought it was fabulous.
Oh, good. I'm happy to
Yeah,
hear that.
really good work.
All right.
We
I'll
have an
make that
official
note.
official color palette, Troy. I can work on updating that for
Ooh.
you.
Yeah.
Sure.
Richard,
I mean, I could send it to you, but I think your time is probably better spent on other aspects of the document.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
So then if there aren't any other comments, yeah, I think the additions and changes that Troy made were great. I think they reflect our conversations that we had back in November. But I might just recommend making a motion to revisit the grant programs in February and make some decisions there. Specifically that section, but I mean, obviously, if there's any other comments to the document, and again, as we don't have anything in front of the board at this moment, I think we can take our time in making sure that everything's well thought through.
Yes, I agree with that statement.
The grant, the sad sections of this document.
I'll make that motion.
One second. Mark second. One bigger.
Aye.
I'd like to bring up an issue that I'm not sure where this should be discussed in today or another meeting. But it's intertwined in the document, the business of camping, I know everything you do. Does everybody have the opportunity to see the new master plan for the resort in the town of Fraser that came out a weekish ago?
I saw it online briefly.
I think we all
Is that
know.
reimagining?
What's that?
Is that the one that says reimagining what
Yeah.
park?
I think it's something that we need to really give enormous consideration to. Actually, came mayor's hour last week and discussed it with the. I think this is a potentially huge issue for the town of Fraser, for business development, for real estate development, right now. Did you read the whole thing? Yeah. Okay, I think it's important for existing businesses, maybe more for what I call discretionary businesses, maybe less, of course, even if it's hiring others. So I'm not sure where we should discuss this. I think it would make sense to have a very brief discussion today.
Let's wait until
Given-
everybody's ready.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Let's wait until everybody is ready.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And Barry, just given that it's not on the agenda, I don't want to dive too far into officially discussing. I will add at any time, please feel free to reach out to Lori or myself in advance of meetings if there's something you would like to see if we can put on the agenda.
Let's see that.
So get out the electronic version.
Everybody read it.
Everybody on the board.
And think through how that's going to affect development, renting retail, running retail, restaurants, et cetera. Just one final comment and I'll stop. They are very clear as can be, it's their objective to build between the resort and the town of Winter Park, an environment where you come to the valley, you sleep there, you ski there, you mountain bike there, you eat there, you drink there, you never know. Between the resort and when the gondola comes in, what they'll build around, it. That is their objective. I think our group should really take that into consideration and think through over the next 3 to 5 years. It's like a window of opportunity, how we make decisions that affect it.
Also, the fact that there's gonna be a lot of development, so on the line of Fraser there, where that hospital is being built. There's gonna be a lot filled in there, I know that's a topic that is a little bit sensitive, but I will say that that will help a lot. Because it's going to kind of connect the town some, and so it'll be a little more seamless. But they do have to wipe out Chaz's building up there and do a whole lot of work before that happens, so we do have 5 years to maybe longer. 3 to 5.
I think we should go ahead and wait and talk about. this
I
next
totally
year,
agree.
though.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that. I feel like we're gonna put on the phone. So let's
Good.
discuss that at the next meeting. We'll add it to the agenda. Everyone can read that document before we get here next time. Can you send out the link to it or? That
Gary,
document?
do you have electronically, you want to send it?
I have-
Sarah, do you
I
already
have
have
a,
it?
I have a lot of it, but I can also.
Okay, yeah, I can look for it, but if you want to send it to me,
Yeah.
perfect, yeah, send it to me and we can share with the group and
Everyone has the same document.
get it on the next.
Okay, so moving on to Northland Professional Services Agreement for 2025.
Yeah, so the agreement that we had with Northland Securities and Troy only went through the end of last year for some of that initial work. Obviously, this document was a big piece of it and is continuing into 2025. So this is just a contract that if the board wants to sign it, would keep Troy on continuing to work through these items, attending board meetings as necessary. when assessments come in, working with the county assessor just to make sure that it makes sense what she's doing. This would go through the end of this year, but does give us the ability to terminate it early within 30 days notice. It has a cap, I believe, is it 5,000?
Yep.
Yes.
If we had larger agreements or things that we wanted Troy to look at, those potentially could be separate agreements. But in talking with Troy, he thinks that 5,000 is very generous, based on what he'd be doing, just kind of in terms of standard scope moving forward. We still have the language in there that, to kind of work on anything, he needs either Lori or I to grant that and, send him an email so he has it in writing, so he's not gonna just run off and do $5,000 of work tomorrow. But this would just be continuing with his services at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to continue working with Troy under this agreement through the end of the year, not to exceed $5,000.
I make a motion to approve the 2025 service agreement with Northland Securities.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
I
Thank you.
Great.
Thank
All right. Thank you, Troy.
Thanks.
I will circle back with you about some different stuff in the document and our other email conversations.
You bet. Talk to you all soon. Have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Bye.
Moving on, the DDA work plan review and update is something we decided to do every quarter. We just looked at it, but we want to go and get it on the right schedule, so the first meeting of the quarter is.
Give me a second and I will share my screen. So given that this was really just kind of approved towards the end of last year, I don't think we need to spend too much time with it today, but I wanted to, as Lori said, be in the habit of just kind of looking at it every quarter and making sure we're actually using this document and it's not just sitting on my computer drive. I know one of the things we talked about that I did not yet take the time to do, but need to follow up with in terms of formatting is just some of these different line items, breaking them out so we can check them off and that recognizing that they may be happening at different times within the larger categories. But just wanted to kind of take a quick look through at the things that we have been working on and start any conversation about what we do want to prioritize for this quarter and moving forward. We've obviously been working through this finance and investment policy, which I think is a huge piece in terms of continuing to lay the foundation for the DDA. So kudos to us for that. I think we've got a solid document and we're getting close there. And then that will be a document that we will continue to revisit at least on an annual basis, if not more frequently as we move through. Event support and coordination policy, not something we've jumped into yet. We have that kind of as a later priority, so maybe that's something we can look at later in the year as we have more time in our meeting schedules. Property acquisition policy, that is actually something that we had talked about whether or not it would make sense to have as part of this financial investment document or something separately. But again, I think that's something we can kind of look at adding in as we move forward.
So because the investment policy helps us narrow down what our priorities are.
Yeah.
The more that we can fit into that will be easier, I think, in the long run for everyone. Figure out what's out there, what's potentially available. Correct. And not get lost.
Yeah.
In the separate
Yes.
document.
Is that like the inventory audit where we look at like what's, I mean, what other word can I use other than blight, but like.
Yeah, some of the language that's used tends to be proper. Oh God, what did they say? Properties that are not being fully utilized. I can't think of the language.
Activated.
We could look at, yes, activation of different spaces and properties that maybe could be more fully utilized for the good. Obviously, you still have private property rights, but
I think that there was a matrix that we were supposed to use for that.
for determining.
Audit. Discuss that. The gentleman that was here.
Ears. Yep.
that I floated out.
Yeah, and we can look to at what's, I can check in on with the town comprehensive plan. What, if anything like that is being done as part of that plan and that visioning for downtown. Because I know they have, which might actually be worth sharing with this group. They do have a land use map for future land use. And they have one for within kind of the town of Fraser and then also kind of going like 3 miles out. So that said, there is some overlap going towards Winter Park with Winter Park's plan as well. But if that would be of use, we could definitely take a look at that as a starting point. And then go do a deeper dive on an inventory later in the year if that's something that the group would want to look at.
It's being presented tomorrow at the plan. So they'll probably give a 10-minute overview rather than spend looking at it yourself.
Yeah, it'll be at the planning commission and then it's the same presentation will be at the next board of trustees meeting as well. Some of what they're presenting is, gosh, did we already do the Riverwalk vision
No,
with the
it's not.
board? Yes.
No.
There is something on the Riverwalk. Stuff. But not.
Because they
deep.
presented to this group on the Riverwalk. I'm trying to remember if they presented that Riverwalk visioning to the board, or that's actually what's happening.
Yeah.
With the planning commission and this board, yeah.
And that's all in the packet if you really want paperwork, you can go in online and put it on the list.
But I can double check and send out an email if the land use mapping is part of that conversation with the board or if they're still working on that. But there will be community workshops coming up, and I think that'd be something great for the DDA board members to attend and just to help promote with the community. So once those dates are finalized, it'll be after the presentations to the planning commission and the board of trustees. I'll make sure you guys all have those dates.
So March and June or July or something like that. It's a long process.
Yeah, I think they're looking at doing it in March. It had originally been slotted for February, March.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, but we did take a look at this downtown Riverwalk visioning. Obviously, we can keep going with that. But in terms of providing input and feedback to the town comprehensive plan. Assess downtown infrastructure needs. Facade improvements and public space enhancements, drainage and sidewalk improvements. So we will get that on February's meeting. Well done, work plan. That also gets somewhat into access and mobility, supporting projects for alternative forms of transportation, developing creative public spaces, grid and access improvements, and downtown wayfinding. Sarah has a meeting at 10, so I don't know that she's gonna be able to join us today, but she has been working on signage. Everybody is talking about signage. So maybe we'll try to get her at our February meeting to just kind of give an update. I can share a couple updates. She has ordered a like tall vertical sign that is going to be on the Amtrak platform. So we're just waiting to get that from the printer. But the structure of it is that the cover can be changed throughout the year, so it can have different kind of seasonal advertising messaging. So
And Amtrak said, okay.
while they're kind of going at the philosophy that they're going to put it there and see what happens, it can be moved if needed.
Schedules, I put up transportation. Need a ride? And I was like, I'll just put these up there, and they're still there, so nobody Amtrak took them down.
Yeah, so
Sarah, while you're on that point, the conversations I've been having with Greg and Kevin, the other Sarah, is around a sign along 40 for Fraser Valley Arts to promote events. inclusive of the packed town events. So the idea would be a sort of faux marquee, to Barry's point about trying to pull people past Safeway, where the tens of thousands of people who drive up and down 40 every day would have no choice but to see that there's Euro Festival, Fire and Ice, Plein Air, et cetera, all these National Theater Live things, and try and build some sense of there's an ongoing cadence of events that you should participate in as part of Fraser. We're very early days of that conversation. We're going to incorporate it into this. We don't know yet if that's a shared thing between the town and FBA, or we do it independently, but we're going to explore that.
Great.
Downtown marketing and branding. I think we are looking at this with the social media strategy as well. When we talk about the ski train promotions and business enhancement grants, I think those are great things to be marketing right now in terms of promoting downtown and just kind of building up things with our constituents. I think it would be worth maybe talking in the future, either February or March, if we want to do some sort of networking promotional event with different businesses and invite them and just kind of share in conversations about the DDA and what we're working on, what we could be working on, just to continue to try to have that community buy-in. So maybe that's something we can add to an agenda as well, to just discuss what that might look like, if that's something that would make sense.
On our priority list, right?
Yeah.
So I guess we should get it on the agenda.
Great. All right. We'll keep talking about online marketing and the website and its limitations, but what we can do with it. Annual budget. We have our budget for this year. We'll keep visiting that on a quarterly basis as well. Right now, we don't have any large planned expenses. So talk about what that looks like. And then as we get into kind of the second and third quarter, can look at more of what that budget process, what we want that to look like, if we want it to be more developed at this point in time as we move to establishing our budget for 2026. Board recruitment, I think we can also visit as we get closer to October and what that might look like.
I do think it'll be important to be public about that.
Yes.
Make sure that everyone knows that they're welcome to throw their hand up.
Yep.
I can post it at post office.
Yep.
Yes, good old post office.
And social media.
Yeah,
Social media.
which is where we're more likely to get.
Yeah.
And then outside funding sources, again, I think that's something we can keep on our radar and visit when the dust kind of settles and there's some time to look at if there are any outside funding sources we want to go after. Always feel free to send those to us if there's ones that you see that you think would be a good fit for the DDA and something we might want to consider going after.
Did the Main Street program kind of fall by the wayside, or is that something that the town and we are still exploring?
Then the Main Street.
Like there was that Colorado funded Main Street. We could become a member of it if we got approved. We explored it like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Is that something we're still pursuing or?
And not at this time. That's something we could look at if we thought that would be useful. I know there's a few different ones. There's a Main Street one, there's a Heart and Soul program that's all kind of like a visioning and getting community
The Main
input.
Street one just seemed to have a lot of resources for grants and once you were a member, you were much more likely to win grants.
I went to Berlin and I went into a.
Troy's on that board, right?
Main Street, Colorado.
Isn't he affiliated with that?
He's on Downtown Colorado Inc.'s board and the Main Street program. There is affiliation.
Yeah.
But it's a
I think we're
separate
just-
program if it's what I'm thinking of.
Okay.
And there's a lot-
I
Yeah.
Just went to a workshop, maybe like 2 months ago. Just getting overview of this. And I have the stuff it's in my email. I haven't sent it to you guys, kind of took them for like 6 weeks to get it to me, but I have all of this application.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the last time they came here, we were like working on an application and then didn't quite get everything together in time, but there seems to be a lot of benefit for the DDA specifically, because it's all about
Oh, yeah.
walkability, facade, business improvement, and they just seem to be, you know, have the resources for grant writers and stuff that, you know, I'm sure everyone would appreciate offloading to someone who's good at it.
Yeah, we can look further into that. I know Diane Butler is also involved in, I believe it's both the Main Street and the Heart and Soul
Yeah.
program, or she's
Okay.
been involved with them at different times and is currently on the board or serves as like a ambassador isn't her actual title, but for one of those programs. So that's something we could look at revisiting.
I think it's worth pursuing because we don't have a ton of meaningful money for the next few years, but with them, we could probably do a lot.
Okay.
More than.
The other grant that's out there, that's been discussed is CDOT has a Revitalizing Main Street grant. So the town applied this past fall and we got money towards $250,000 towards the bike park. The DDA can apply for that as well. And they have cycles. Trying to remember if it's fall and spring or every quarter. The impression I have is it might be, I hesitate to say easier money to go after, but maybe not as competitive as some of the grants out there.
What's it called again?
It's through CDOT and it's called Revitalizing Main Street. But I think there's a lot of potential projects that the GDA could undertake at some point, be it now or in the future, that would be a really good fit for the grant.
So do they know for sure when they're gonna be widening Highway 40 through Fraser?
I think I asked that, we need to.
I don't think there's a date.
Paul, we said last time, Paul is supposed to have a meeting with them, could we on the next month or the following month, have Paul or CDOT come in and talk to us, just so. I feel like a lot of the things that we're talking about are also dependent on what CDOT does, like. Redoing the sidewalks, well, is CDOT, are we gonna redo it and then CDOT is gonna destroy it in 2 months?
Right. Well, and I was gonna say, I don't know that anyone at the town level has the level of information on what CDOT is doing that we would like to have. But I could ask Paul to address that as well as just as part of that sidewalk conversation. I know they put out design of it to an RFP a while back, and I believe have selected a company, and that is kind of happening. So I think we're still a couple years out from it actually happening, maybe 2026
I was thinking 2026.
or 2027.
Yeah,
If, yeah.
They
I
have
thought it was way further away than that.
yeah, I don't know. I don't
They
know.
have design, but it's like option A, option B. I don't think it's like solidified which design they're going for.
They had previously had designs, but I know they put out an RFP to, I guess, get the design they actually want to pursue. But again, some of that involves private property and moving streets around. So
Yeah,
I don't know I don't know what level they're at, if it's still kind of more conceptual or if it's actually like moving towards construction level.
yeah, what I had seen is just
Documents.
conceptual, because it was that Highway 40 and Clayton Avenue intersection that would affect that parcel. But it was like 3 options and they didn't know which.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
want to refrain from like investing in something.
Yeah.
like that.
Even just any of their plans, ideas.
Lori, you might give the mayor a call.
Yeah.
Because he sits on that board.
Yeah.
Anybody have any idea of what is lighting units on the ring?
We're looking at like taking right where Clayton Avenue and Highway 40 is. On the south end, just north of the Trail Alliance building. Widening there, so taking from the like.
So it'd be 4 lanes there.
4 lanes.
They have to take some, kind of sidewalk buffer and take some, parking to accomplish it at that south end. But then it would continue.
So there's no real way to make it more.
No.
Yeah, I mean, just to do that, they have to get some land from the property.
But that makes sense.
But it would move, one thing, it would potentially move the crosswalk It's right across from the bus stop right now, that goes into like the middle of that trailer park lot to Clayton Court, so if we're gonna do anything about moving the buttons up so they always know something about, yeah.
And it's gonna be important if the train service increases and we have significant people coming
Yeah.
down through that.
Yeah, whenever we put, one of the comments is a light at Eisenhower.
And then lastly,
The part behind the horse.
Yeah, well, it's a light that doesn't allow you to come off the east side onto 40. It's like a three-way light, so it doesn't accomplish what most people probably want it to accomplish.
so I think that Main Street and Heart and Soul would kind of exploring those would kind of fall under programs, other programs. I also have under here the ski train Fraser business promotions and then business enhancement grant promotions that we are underway on this quarter as well. Anything else that anybody wants to comment on, or a glaring omission or something that you think should be in here that's not in here?
Did you guys land on anything for that promotion program?
That's next up.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were on.
No worries. Yeah.
Like, either something to do on the wood thing, so. Motion to continue working on the work plan as is. No changes. No changes.
Great, we need a motion.
And do other than motion, do you?
I don't think so. No, it's just a working document.
Yeah.
So it's just meant as an update and again, to make sure we're using it.
Okay, great. Motion and review of this one.
All right, let me pull up this website. Or my meeting bar is over my browser and doesn't want to move. So I believe I pulled these web pages up briefly at our last meeting. I think internally we continue to have conversations about our website, our town website, not always being quite as intuitive as we might like it to be, but we do have an economic development section under departments. You also can get to all of this just by searching for what you're looking for. And I do find that the search tool works pretty well. And admittingly, that is what I do more than anything else. But under Fraser Economic Development, we have the Fraser Business Incentives and Grant Programs listed here. So Fraser Business Incentives are for new businesses. So this would be new commercial development or new businesses moving into commercial space. And I'll just go through this super quickly and then focus on the business enhancement grants. But the incentives that we know we legally as a town are able to offer to businesses would be sales tax rebates to business owners. So the distillery has received those, Vicious Cycle receives those. And then Simple Coffee and Birdie Lounge have both gotten those. So those are open. The board has approved. The board has approved basically just an open invitation inviting new commercial ventures to apply and request for incentives. So to be considered, they're asked to include a cover letter, a business incentive application form, which just kind of walks through some different questions. So we're in the process of creating that form. So then they could actually submit this request through that form and upload all of these supplemental documents. So we should have that up by the end of this month. But it asks them to include a business and strategic plan, a project timeline, site plan, if a market analysis makes sense, but trying to just provide enough information that we can determine if these are a good fit for Fraser, for the vision for downtown Fraser, assuming it would be a business within downtown Fraser. And that it's going to be a viable business that the town is helping to support, but really meant to kind of recognize that for all the opportunities that come with having a business in a resort mountain community like Fraser, there's also a lot of challenges. And so trying to provide appropriate supports to help those businesses get off the ground and be successful. I think that's particularly critical as we are working to develop our downtown and still have, I mean, I know Kevin's spoken about like, what do you put on Clayton Court right now? There's not going to be a lot of foot traffic in the next couple years, whereas we hope that there is in the future. So how do you kind of support those businesses coming in on the early stages before you have more foot traffic, which hopefully does come. So open to any feedback on this as we continue to kind of look at this and develop this. I kind of list what we're looking for and what the Board of Trustees would be looking to prioritize in terms of businesses that really are something unique and fill gaps, as well as having kind of that solid business plan that looks like they can be viable, and just need some maybe added economic support on the front end to give them a little extra cushion.
You know that the people that are under contract for the bakery space are planning to apply for this.
Okay.
And they were just kind of looking for some, I think they're gonna apply probably before you have the application out. But just for some, I forwarded this site to them when I saw it on the agenda
Okay.
as like kind of an outline to apply for.
And I can let them know what then when that form is up. And I could even send them the Word document. And we're just working on getting it into a meeting with Michael actually this afternoon to see if he wants to make any changes, and then we'll get that form created. So it should be up within the next week or two, hopefully.
So if somebody's considering opening a business in Fraser and looking into it, they go to our website. Is there a link to this along with like a business? I'm assuming maybe they would start by looking into a business license. So are they all kind of linked together for people that do search?
Yeah, so
And
under
just food for thought.
yeah.
You don't have to look into it now, but
So under economic development, which is kind of the spot that I would send them if they're looking at stuff, there's a link to the DDA's page. There's a link to this page, which is where they would get the information specifically on the incentives or the business enhancement grant and the link to those applications. And then we have some business resources, some visitor data, and we are working on linking the business license process here too.
Yeah.
Because going back to what's intuitive, that's under the clerk's page because the clerks handle it, but I wouldn't expect businesses to know that. So
click on it and say, oh, look,
yeah,
they can help me.
And there could be a great cheat sheet too, like. What's your step-by-step process? I mean, I don't know, I guess if you can't figure it out, let your rep start.
No, it's fair enough though. Yeah.
I think like the DDA has. Maybe not more to give, but as much to give as the town with the property tax, tip. That I think is worth marketing out to people, because that's significant, meaningful money.
Yeah.
Save on 50% or whatever we're willing to give up. I think that's worth marketing either on our own or noting here that in those additional things, like if there's a cool idea that wants to come to town, I think that's probably, we're only spending it once they're built. It's kind of good for us and good for the town. So I think that's worth highlighting.
Yeah, and we could definitely add that under the economic development page. Something else I want to add, the way it's structured, you get to these starting from economic development, but it doesn't, that landing page doesn't show up on this menu here. So adding that, so it's a more easier navigation. But that does link to the DDA's page, but we can more specifically, especially once we have that kind of investment policy ready to go, add that into this page so people know that in addition to the town incentives, they can potentially be eligible for DDA incentives.
I feel like once someone wins one of these business incentives and comes to the DDA, and then it's like a case study of, oh, here's XYZ business that got 5,000 here, 2,000 here, 10,000 here, Sky High posts that or whatever, then people start to like, oh, they're open,
They're open for business. And that's another goal, is to just do a better job promoting who gets these grants, because we haven't done that in the past. So I think both on the town side and on the DDA side.
Yeah, because we could even promote, not that it was the DDA who did it, but like, you know, the distillery, Simple Coffee, Birdie Lounge, that.
Just examples that would
Just,
showcase.
it just shows.
Some of it's like for brand new stuff and some is just like
That's a good point.
in your front door,
Yeah,
right?
Great.
Yeah.
because those are all like. Yeah. I just feel like those are all great businesses that people like,
That's-
you know, like.
When you're making
Pretty
these,
impressed when you go into those, if you don't know about Fraser and think it's just like, you know, drive through town, whoa, this is. Rare.
Well, and I obviously have my eyes on that for the center, just as a opportune time,
Yeah,
but when we do that, we're happy to promote that, to use us out of it.
yeah,
And what about, this survey that went out? Are we able to review that on, like, put that on the agenda, or just have that as a,
the one that went out as part of the town comprehensive plan.
yeah, cause I mean, I remember putting in there, like, I would love a coffee drive-through, like, mom and kids. Like,
Yeah.
I miss the shed so much, and it's been like years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I go to the roastery, I commit, but like, you know, it'd be nice for a drive-through burrito and coffee. In this town,
In this town.
you on the back of those.
but I wanna hear what other people said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will add that for February as well. Thank you. That had fallen off my radar to share,
You got
so,
a lot of feedback, didn't you? You
yeah,
gave a pretty good number.
yep, the overall comp plan.
That would be one good thing to post too, because the restaurant group that's looking at our next projects was asking for if they could do a survey, and they've kind of been given that one.
Yeah,
But just like. Letting other businesses.
under the, where we have the
Hey,
visitor
here's what
data.
people want, Fraser.
Yeah, and this is really pretty general, but I would be happy to have more feedback on what sort of data, Greg or anybody, that businesses would like to see.
Yeah, I sent it to Michael, I can forward you, you know, on kind of the questions they wanted to ask. And
Yes, no, I was copied on those emails, but yeah, if there's just any sort of data additionally that would be helpful to have, we can always try to provide people data that we have access to if they specifically request it, but in terms of just having it up on our webpage.
yeah, I just think that survey, because it was so pointed at like.
Okay.
F&B options.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's good that, like, you know, 100 people want to drive to your coffee shop, someone's gonna be like, all right.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Good for the roaster, just kidding. But
It's a lot.
Yes.
You either sit in your car and wait behind another car, or you sit in line.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
You got 3 kids in your car.
I will
sit and wait. Not one, not two, but 3.
Yeah, my mission statement is to have people in a comfortable environment and people in a good time.
Yeah,
And when it's kid-free, sometimes it's nice.
Yeah. I'll go
Most
that
of those
one
have
too.
children in there, but every once in a while you get a wild one.
I will frequent that one.
And they-
yeah, I'll say I'm all about getting out of my car, but once you're getting a couple kids out of car seats just to get them back into the car seat, it does kind of change the equation. All right, so the Fraser Business Enhancement Grants, and again, I have to say, I'm making just some slight updates to the application form that has been on our website and has been used for past rounds. I thought I'd completed it last night and somehow I did not save all my changes. So I'm gonna redo what I did last night, but that should be posted. It says here it will be up by January 16th. So I will honor that. But again, the information is basically here. It'll just be adding the link and it's a fairly quick form with some information. Trying to balance getting good information so that if we do have a number of applicants, for both the DDA board and most importantly for the Board of Trustees, that they can make informed decisions on if this is a good use of taxpayer money, you know, to give to these businesses now that it's gone up to 25,000. But also keeping it manageable for businesses that want to apply and not making it overly burdensome. So we do ask them to provide just kind of some different sketches, site plans, whatever is appropriate depending on the particular project, an itemized budget. We've expanded it a little bit, but it's still pretty much the program it was before, just with a larger budget amount, but really focused on kind of exterior improvements with the idea that that provides that kind of public benefit of adding to the vitality of downtown if you have nicer looking businesses, encouraging kind of additional public amenities, patios, benches, things like that, that are kind of outward facing. And then ADA improvements. I think a lot of businesses in Fraser could do a lot more, and I would like to see if they are getting money and putting in a patio, making improvements, that they try to make those things ADA accessible while doing it. Because that hasn't been the case. So that application will be up. We'll talk about ski train next, but my plan is after this meeting later, hopefully later today, to send an email out to all Fraser businesses that'll have information on the business enhancement grant once that application is live, and then the ski chain promotion program as well. I'll also send out the DDA, the link to sign up for notifications, and just a reminder that they are welcome to attend these meetings. If there's anything else you'd like to see going out to local businesses right now, let me know. But also would just really like the DDA to be the foot soldiers and trying to promote this. So we actually have applications come March 3rd and encouraging businesses to think about what they could do. The idea is that this would be for projects that would happen within 2025. There is some language in there that they can request an extension if they need to. But the idea is that this would be money that they would be using this year to complete their projects.
I have a question and 2 comments. Do you know what the total budget is for 2025? And was there a rollover from 24 that adds to that?
So the budget, I meant to verify this with Lori before the meeting. It's either 75,000 or 100,000.
I was thinking the
Is
same
that-
thing.
yeah.
One of the
We had
others.
talked about 75, but I feel like she actually put 100 in the budget, and I apologize. I meant to verify that. So I can verify it and send it out.
Was there a
I agree with you. I'm
rollover
not sure which one.
that wasn't-
I'm sorry.
Thought I heard.
If there was, it's in that dollar amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, generally against accepted accounting principles to roll it for municipalities and that sort of thing, so they just add it. The new budget.
My real comment on this is, I think this is wonderful. In particular, things will be very visible from 40, and it'll wrap into the conversation I think we will have the next meeting with what the resort and the town of Winter Park is planning. And like things like this to be extraordinary and helping us track and enhance existing businesses in anticipation of what's going to be. Which is, I think, one of the most significant things that's happened in this valley in a long time. And it could be good for us, or it could be very challenging for Fraser development. For real estate, it'd be great. For Fraser retail, for running retail, I think it might be very challenging.
I would agree. Is there, I don't know that we have any input on it, but if it's for projects to be done in 2025, that just seems tight if people are applying in 2025. Like, if you're gonna, like, you better to be thinking about it, getting your application in now if it's flat work, so.
That's what
Would
I
it make
asked.
sense just to give them like 12 or 18 months from when they are awarded it?
Well, and that was the idea. We were trying to balance not making it too close to the new year, but giving people enough time if they have projects in the works. I mean, I guess with the idea that if most people are doing projects in the summer,
Yeah.
now is when they would, get those estimates and have that budget and kind of be ready to.
I think like just going back to what Nick was saying about, clearing the snow, and obviously there's an existing drainage issue that's probably not just affecting Nick, but maybe his neighbors.
Yeah.
Like, and there's gonna need to be a lot of coordination for widening sidewalks, improving drainage. I think if someone's able to be like, hey, I'm the little business, not on the corner, but I can get the grant. That can kind of get everyone else to say, all right, let's take on this project. Town can do what they can do, and then it fills in. I feel like if you had more time, you'd have people approaching it that way rather than just, I'm gonna do what I can afford in my own little box. Cause some of those things are not really just benefiting that one business and will require more time to plan.
They, on the other hand, it's a multi-year thing. So people know it's available, you know, and they do need.
But what I'm getting at is the actually spending the dollars. If you're gonna go redo a sidewalk for 500 feet and there's one guy who's applying for his 50.
Yeah.
You don't wanna redo the 50 and then come back and redo the other ends.
I see.
You know, try to let him, as long as that money's gonna, you know. I don't wanna limit it to be like, all right, I got 50 grand, gotta spend it right now, and then people. Spend it without trying to be smart about it, cause I think all the businesses throughout, especially on this side of town, you know. The right of the walkway improvements affect everyone, but no one's gonna take it on themselves, it's like.
And that's where,
Segmented.
I mean, my situation was super unique, but I do have to say that like. It was pretty complicated as a young entrepreneur to expand and not realize like the timelines of certain things. Which if you were to, if the committee could be prepared for people to not make the right decisions. And help with the guidance there, not to coach, not to consult, but to be more like, okay, if this person hasn't come for this funding, like if they have not showed up and like taken this money from us, we need to check up on them. Or is there a form they have to fill out if they don't meet that certain timeline? Because literally the town of Winter Park never reached out to me. I mean, I was in a state of panic. I was,
Yeah.
like, pretty urgently trying to figure out certain things with mine that I couldn't seasonally meet that expansion on the outdoors for the weather elements.
Yeah.
So I was in completely new territory, but I did not have any
help.
buddy come to me like, yo, you didn't take our money.
Right.
I was like, well, I couldn't because I couldn't match it because I had already gone over budget.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, I took full blame for it. But being someone who was on the other end of it, probably worst case scenario, similar, close to worst case. COVID was encroaching on that too, so you just never know what that small business is gonna hit. And I think if the town and or the DDA could have some sort of, plan of action.
Follow-up mechanism.
Or yeah, an SOP that works for being fair too, because you don't want to be like, oh, here's 2 years to spend the money. And then that's gonna affect everything.
Yeah.
Negatively.
Well, I think some of the idea is if you're going to apply and you're putting in a patio 2 years from now, we'd rather have you apply 2 years from now. And the person who's going to put it in this summer can use the money this time. I think there are cases where it makes sense to make that extension. And at this point, it's really just written that they need to send an email and request that extension. And I think we'd be reasonable. I think we can continue to evaluate. Up until this year, the maximum grant amount has been 7,500, and they've been fairly small projects that people were ready to go on for the most part. So,
And this one doesn't require a full match, as I recall.
so it's the wording, and I have gone back and forth on this as I was updating the form. The wording is that it is still expected to be a 50% match, but that lower project matches may be considered for projects providing maximum public benefit. I debated putting in language around or for people who this would not be the language, but basically the idea like otherwise it's not economically feasible for them to do the project. My hesitation is that, I mean, if I was doing this, I would always like, why wouldn't you request a lower match? Whereas we really do want to promote that, you know, these are improvements to the business, that they have skin in the game as well. And that most of the time the business is still providing that match, that this isn't meant to not have the businesses kind of put that skin in the game.
I also feel like we, the town, whomever, should also be not only promoting the 2025 applications, but also the 26.
Yeah.
It's me as a business owner, I'm like, this is a great opportunity, but I don't have my ducks in a row, like, I wanna do this, but I don't know how much it's gonna cost, I don't know who's gonna build it, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I could do it for next year, but if I knew that I could do it next year, like, really promoting like this year and next year.
And again, there was that balance between when are people gonna be ready for this, but not making it, if it's in May and you need to then go get a building permit, you might not be able to make it happen that summer. So I think you're right. It's that further out thinking. And if somebody wants to put in new sidewalks and get the businesses together for 2026, then they can apply at that time. It also is stated that we may not get any applications on March 3rd. That is kind of the priority consideration deadline. And then after that, they'll be accepted on a rolling basis. So, yeah, so you could apply in August if there's still money available.
I think as long as we indicate that if things don't work out, you can apply for an extension. Just for full disclosure, I think I'm on the next board meeting. And I think.
Yeah, you are,
Yeah.
sorry.
We're applying for the patio over our roof, the little roof we have, we're gonna extend it the whole thing, if we get the grant. You'll see when you look at it, we had the architectural drawings drawn up in 2020. And I just am struggling to pull the trigger, but we really want to do it. I think I have a contractor, I have a proposal. But if somebody accepts a proposal before me, I may lose my slot. So this is, you know what it's like. You can have all the drawings, all the intention, all the funding, and then they go, oops, we got someone before you, so it's a tough environment to do additions.
Can we just add verbiage that says that you can apply for an extension?
I think.
It's on there.
It's in there. Yeah.
It's in there.
I think that.
And again, I think if there's money left over and somebody's applying in October for something that they're looking to do in January, I think that would be fine. I think the idea is that if there's limited money, we don't want people just sitting on
Right.
grants that we could be giving to somebody else potentially, or they could just be asking for the following year.
But I
So,
do think that, given what I see coming down the pike from our friends in Winter Park and Resort, this kind of enhancement could go very, very far in drawing more people down here over the next few years. So I think it's a great program.
yeah, and I think again, we upped the amount significantly. It's the first time we've had kind of a deadline for priority consideration, so we can continue to evaluate what it looks like as we move forward. But I will email you all as soon as that link is posted. But again, really hoping that you can be able to keep saying it, the foot soldiers. So helping to just promote it, talking to businesses, helping to encourage them to think about ways they could use it. And again, if we don't get any applications, if we want to push that priority deadline out a month, we can do it. I just didn't want to get too close to summer and have people who need the money to do the project then not actually have time to put it together. But we can evaluate what makes sense in future years too for that deadline and what that looks like.
Have you had buy-in from businesses on the ski train incentive?
Let's one last item for this and then we'll get to the ski train. So with this, the suggestion has been made that there maybe be a subcommittee that kind of look at applications that come in that would meet separately. And that we bring in somebody who's not on the DDA so that we are fair if we have applications outside of the DDA. Given that most of our businesses are within the DDA currently, I don't have a particular, I think the idea was that it might be a business owner in mind. I feel like we could potentially ask somebody like Diane Butler or Patrick Brower, but just wanted to get some thoughts on that kind of subcommittee so we can get that lined up.
Number in mind of how many people will be on the committee?
Sorry, would you say 4?
Go ahead.
I mean, it could be if we have somebody else, if I help administer it, I mean, it could be as few as 2 people. It could be a larger subcommittee. If it's a larger subcommittee and they meet, we have to publish that as a public meeting, but we could do that. And again, I don't know how many applications we're gonna get. So it may be competitive, it may not be. Is there anybody particularly interested in being on that committee? I would say if you
just said not on the DDA board.
have one person who's not on the DDA board. Yeah. If you are at all thinking of submitting an application, I would not put yourself on the committee.
I think Patrick Brower might be exceptional,
Yeah,
because not only might he have really good insights as to what sort of activity enhancement would be successful, but he also might use as an opportunity to do a little coaching for people doing it, and he's done a lot of it, if he's willing to.
yeah,
That
it
sounds
told
like-
me not to, I was gonna do it, I did it, I messed up, so,
What's that?
I'm just kidding. I was one of the students.
Oh.
He's really good.
Yeah, it sounds like it won't take enormous amount of his time, because we don't expect dozens of these,
Right.
but he might be. Very good at that.
So are you saying you had no applicants last year?
No, we had applicants that kind of trickled in through the year. And again, this is where I feel like we could do a better job of promoting. So Fraser Beer Company, that patio they put in, they got a grant to help with that. Fraser Auto and oh, okay. They got one for garage doors. And then Barry applied for one. Sure, the only ones that are coming to mind. The town has honestly ended up, they've had a certain amount allocated and we've ended up like the DDA seed money came from that budget line item because it was just sitting there, like people weren't requesting the grant, so. So again, if there's not promotion, I don't know that we will get applications come March 3rd. But I can ask Patrick Brower if he'd be interested.
Cause that would take the weight off of like pretty much the stuff I was talking about, if you have, you know, that person's being guided along. No,
Yeah,
And it might be good to have people that have been through the process that don't have a request outstanding, because they might be good at understanding the criteria and will continue.
all right, nobody's jumping at the opportunity.
If we look at like some of the events that are happening soon, say fire and ice and whatnot, and just send a DDA representative over there to promote it. Hand out some flyers, you know, I mean, there's gonna be tons of, you know, locals there, so to speak, or an announcement. I mean, announcement at events are probably the most successful in the town, because that's where people go to gather.
Yeah, fire and ice, I feel like is a tricky one. I remember thinking about stuff.
Like just saying an event, right?
Yeah,
Otherwise, you just blast it on Facebook, that can happen, I mean, we
Right.
should do that, and we can all do that individually, like, if there's something that we should share on Facebook.
we don't we need some like tangibles, like business cards?
Okay, at the bar too.
The one thing you could
Yeah,
do
the
with
bar would
Fire
do
and
it.
Ice, is we could make a very simple, but approved sign. That promotes the involvement in this group. And we post it near the snow sculpture, we just stick it in the snow and thousands of people will see it.
And the good thing about that too is that it also shows people that this town is willing to work with businesses, so people outside of town that might want to move here. Are like, you know, maybe I do want to go there and put a business in, so promoting businesses at events is huge. Like when I go up and talk about film festival at the chamber events, that's extremely helpful. They just put me on stage in front of 500, 700 people at the main event, and you just blast your mouth off, hey, this is what we're doing, and everyone's like, oh, I have no idea. I'm telling you.
then we can ask Catherine Ross to send this out through the chamber as well.
Exactly, that's something, you know.
Sounds just goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Are they able to send out a blast?
These events are great.
The chamber,
Yeah. but
they
they're
should,
great.
yeah. And again, the town has a business listserv, so I can send it to them.
You mentioned like sending out to businesses, is that like everyone has a business license?
Yes, if you, when you got your business license, gave us an appropriate email, you should get it. So let me know if. I would actually appreciate those of you that are business licensees, if you let me know if you get it. I always feel like I'm just sending it into a void and there's never. We do it through MailChimp, so you can tell how many people have opened it, but
Sorry, to interrupt you.
No.
If you were asking about the chamber though, they only send it to their members.
Yeah, those like, they send a lot of.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Which is good.
yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah.
I will say, I mean, we will put it out through all these channels, social media, the website. I think that's good. I feel like there is a limited pool really of businesses that can apply for these. So more targeted, like going in and talking to a business, like your dumpster sucks. Have you thought about building an enclosure around it? You could apply for this grant. Might be more effective in getting people to go beyond like the email that they see and never think about to actually considering ways they could use this money to improve the exteriors of their businesses.
You and I talked about business cards last week.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your idea, Lori?
Oh, yeah, so.
One more comment for you, I have that, right, Liberty, to this. There is a discussion going on as to whether the Economic Development Advisory Committee will continue. Either not continue its current form, or some hybrid form. The hybrid that we've discussed does entail some business outreach. And then collecting that information and bringing it back to the board. So if that were to go forward, it'd be a great avenue to do what you're suggesting.
But I would encourage that this group be that avenue as well. And again, that really was one of the ideas behind going with a larger board was just having, you know, more people that are involved in the community out there kind of promoting downtown Fraser and just getting other business members and residents to kind of be actively involved, even if they're not sitting on the board.
If you guys want me to go somewhere and be a representative, I like doing that sort of thing. I like going to events and chatting to people about DDA stuff. That would be just fine for me.
All right, you're signed up for Fire and Ice.
What day, what are the dates on that again?
It's February 8th.
8th? Okay, well, that's time to wear. I'm gonna be in Mexico 8th to 15th.
All right.
I like the Fire and Ice, but I think it's such a big event, like you said, and people, all kinds of people. I think a sign would be great where you could have like a QR code, but announcements at Fire and Ice, it's really hard to hear anything. It's such a big event.
Where
Yeah.
there's going to be a substantial snowstorm. And everybody who comes to that is going to go look at it, and we're gonna have lights on it, and so if we just made a, you know, one of those signs that sticks in the ground, it's like this.
Sign.
Yeah, and we'll pop it in there, and that sculpture will be there for weeks. So we'll put it in there when it's complete for the event, 1,000 people see it that night, and people who come by for the subsequent 2 weeks will be able to see it as well, and we can drive traffic.
So we have a little bit in our budget to spend this year,
Yeah.
and that's outreach for new and for new businesses. Yeah, think about one big Fraser, start a new business.
Right.
You know, check this out. And if it's something that we could continue to use in events, that maybe the DDA, we commit. What, 500, whatever, to make something good.
Oh, I mean, to make a temporary sign like this, having done it for Zillion days,
Okay.
it's gonna cost $100.
Okay.
Yeah, or lights.
Yeah. All right, got it.
And we can go, but
Yeah.
we can reuse it and put it at the rec center or something. My friend was Scott Levine, everybody goes to the rec center, so it's like, why not put something there?
Yeah.
That'd be a great posting place too.
Okay. So on this sign, we want to have like a QR code that takes them to the DDA webpage. Do we want to have the Instagram or
Yeah.
social media? What? Or are we specifically looking to use this to promote? Again, I don't know. I feel like it's such a big event that the pool for the business enhancement grants is smaller, but we could do a shout out for that. We could do the ski train promotions might be an idea.
Getting to like the Instagram, because we have all of that stuff is on Instagram, or will be, right?
Yeah, that's on my, I was just gonna present that to you guys.
So then we could, yeah, so after she presents, like that's, I think it's gonna be more DDA comprehensive as opposed to just being one thing.
Okay.
We can use it for the duration, not use it just for one thing.
I agree.
Also on a crazy event, people are more likely gonna QR code and Instagram instead of a website.
Yeah, exactly, because it's just easy, oh, I'll follow it.
All right, I can work with Sarah Wick and try to come up with a sign and get that at Fire and Ice by February 8th. Sounds like it's the direction we are asking for.
She's done it before.
Yeah. Okay.
I would be under the idea that we've been talking about is that providing business cards to us with QR codes to the DDA information. Because some people just don't have time. We can talk about it all we want, but are they really gonna go to the website, do all the searching, Googling and all that? Or just, hey, like, DDA with a lot of opportunity, a lot of grants that we can provide to you, a lot of resources. Here's my card, it has the QR code to wherever the website or Instagram or whatever, and then they can easily go back to it and then have the time to dedicate to it.
Or if there's like a template of email or just the landing page we're sending everyone, is that the DDA page?
It can be word, yeah, it can be day, it can be.
Once it's all
Yeah,
like
exactly.
routed.
Right, and we can, ensure all the things are just like,
I feel like. I'm jumping ahead. Sorry.
yeah. Anyways, that was a ton of thought, because I know I get business cards a lot, especially when I go to conferences, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna put these on a stack over here, and I don't always go back through them and be like, okay, let me Google this person or Google this website, and having a QR code, they can easily get to it, quickly.
Well, and I was just thinking like from a marketing real estate release perspective, if there's a landing page for business owners to go to on retail leases to say, hey, you know, it costs this much and here's some opportunities to make it less, or, you know.
I think, yeah, providing very basic breakdown, like almost an FAQ, to say, this is what we have, this is what it costs, this is how long it takes to process or whatever.
And I think the thought, correct me if I'm wrong, Lori, is it would kind of be a generic DDA. And you could write in your own information
Right,
if you were
yeah,
giving
whatever
it to
you-
somebody, but we would just make one set of cards and give everybody some versus
Right.
individual.
And they want it, if the DDA board member, Lenny can write it in, that way we're not having to make like an individual one or 10 individual ones, and then having to re-up them every year.
I want to base someone.
And some kind of a catchy line below our title, because 98% of people out there go, Fraser Town, you can open it for.
Yeah, do we have a tagline?
That sounds.
We don't have a tagline.
We need a
And,
tagline.
a tagline that would be bigger, you know, something about helping Fraser's open for business or doing whatever.
ChatGPT might be able to give us a tagline.
I'm gonna say you could probably pull
But I think we
something
need
from
that before we invest in your-
the plan of development language.
Yeah.
For a tagline.
Okay, so.
Okay,
the cards are a little ways out. I think that we need to focus on that.
Yeah.
Getting that tagline out there.
Yeah.
Something that people don't just go.
The QR code being on the business
And
card is
then
important
keep
though.
going.
Yeah, I think
Mhm.
definitely.
Because the Instagram handle could be on there.
Yeah.
And then people could go straight to the link tree, which is. Super important.
yeah, okay. Well, no pressure, but I think it would
Oh,
make
I'm
sense
feeling-
once the Instagram is up and running.
No,
Oh,
and next week I'll hit the ground running. I am like so excited my business took off. It's just been a nutty winter.
woo.
So it has been a heavy load. So I emailed Sarah last night saying totally dropped the ball on execution with DDA stuff because I've literally just been trying to survive. But all the doors open next week, and I would love to schedule a meeting with you guys to
Okay.
implement what I was gonna present, because I think the implementation is where I like stop. Because Linktree is gonna cost something. I think it's like $3 a month.
Okay,
So there's a fee to use it. But what I need from the board is approval for image, like a biography image. During this, I was able to present, like, I have 10 grid post images to present the staff on, so I just need your picture and then get, I think we could do it real quick, we could decide on 3 questions. And what information goes on that grid post, and then those could be flipped into stories pretty quick. I just don't, I mean, I think obviously the logo and the color story, I've already pulled the color story. Push those into the grid post. Everybody's name and position, but you know, whatever else goes on it, I just don't know what my freedom is. Like, I don't think you should put your favorite burrito, that might be choosing favoritism, but like, maybe. Like, you know, what's your favorite powder day ritual? Is
Outdoor activity.
favorite trail or something funny and catchy. I think you guys did a superpower thing. Somebody did superpower. What's your superpower locally? Already. But I have to get your information and then I have to get a biography image, and I pulled some off of social or off the web already, and those aren't gonna cut it. I mean,
okay.
like Greg looks all gritty in one, and then I only got a really hardcore one of parks, I don't know if that one's appropriate. It's your-
I can do those
But I don't
pictures.
have, you know,
Yeah.
those images, and I can use AI to generate images, but that also needs to be a permission thing.
Well, I would say either we can have everybody send you a photo, or we could ask, Sarah Wick can take them as well if we wanted to do that.
It's up to you, whatever you guys want. I don't wanna make it complicated, but
Probably easiest for just us to send you a photo.
Yeah.
that's good
Something off
quality.
our phone, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a professional.
Cool.
And tell us, you know, the kind you want. Do you want funny? Do you want casual? Do you want formal? Yeah.
I mean, if you guys said you want it, it doesn't work, I'll be honest. I feel like it doesn't work.
Okay, like 2 dozen, so.
Yeah, if you send me 3, a couple, then I can. Push them in, because if they don't show up well in terms of the pixels,
Yep.
then it just look bad. So that's top of it, right? Because then that's like 10 posts. And then this second priority, and correct me if I'm wrong, would be the Linktree account. And then what goes into the Linktree. And so if you're following me, you can go to my Linktree, because Linktree has evolved quite a bit. And there's 3 sections. And in your 3 sections, you can have your links. So what would be, based on what Sarah said today, what would be the 3 priorities we want to give people immediate access to? Yeah.
Right off the rip.
So the business enhancement grant would be one section of Linktree, and then that would have 3 that could have 3 direct links. It could be one to the application, it could be one to business information. A broader, the economic development tab on the website. For, you know,
Mhm.
general
That's the
business.
Sarah Wick. Give Sarah one.
And then another one could be,
What was, sorry, what was that page that was shown with like the existing businesses in Fraser a meeting or 2 ago?
The Explore Fraser.
yeah.
That
Yeah.
was cool
Other
just to see
website.
what's already here.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So I guess I could call it the business like hub, and then it would be. Grant. And we go straight to whatever link is.
The business enhancement grants,
And then the other one would be the Explore,
Fraser.
Fraser, and I.
And you could do one to the DDA webpage.
And then. What was it, economic development, so they could look at, maybe what will be on there would be the licenses. Visitor data,
It's like what's new or something, what do we have things like that, what's coming up?
Yeah, why don't we meet next week with Sarah and
Get real
hammer
specific.
through all of this? Yeah.
is there anything else that you guys think should be immediate though?
I think for this quarter would be focusing on the grants and just, and then also introducing results. Just till March, because that's when they're.
You could do a read more about what a DDA is,
Yeah.
that could be on the link tree.
Because I'm not familiar with Linktree, so I'm trying to like picture this in my head, but what I'm thinking of, the Fraser right now, the Fraser DDA, the economic development, the business enhancement grants, they all kind of live in the same part of the
You
webpage.
just want it to be super quick.
So they could be,
So if you go here and then you just click here, shouldn't do that. And so they have,
gotcha. So 3 things is really like 9 things because you can,
yeah,
Okay.
you can organize it.
great.
Does that help?
Yes, it does. It's super helpful.
It's like for the not the ADD, but.
Yeah,
So if you're on,
So the link tree would we pull this out of our budget?
and so it's like an immediate,
we could, but yeah,
Yeah.
it says it's like,
and this goes straight to a whole nother website.
$30 a month.
Yeah.
$3.
$3.
No, it's like,
30.
They might increase
Yeah.
it back. It might,
did you say it was 3 or 30?
3 or 5.
Yeah,
super
My comment is
affordable.
like, why are you using that? Do you need it? Cause I have too many things like that. 3 adds up, but.
yeah,
It's savvy and it's useful
okay.
to get people to just go to the other website.
And that sounds great because again, this website, and I do want to move on to the ski train, because I feel like that's a now or never. But this website that we have through Civic Plus is just really limited in what you can do with it. So I think if a lot of our stuff is happening through a central social media place that we can send people, that makes a lot of sense. And we can work on posting more of that here on our website as well, but you can't get very pretty or flashy with it. So it's just ends up being a lot of scrolling and nothing fancy.
Do they
So.
text or email me the images, which does that need to be discussed?
What works for you?
With individual and not like a group or a group. anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
it's
fine.
just follow up
It's-
this, yeah.
Do you want to say your phone number real quick?
Yes, it's 985 New Orleans, area code 630-5256. And then I could just email you the discussion PowerPoints from next week
Okay.
to them for like the information.
Okay. Yeah. And then why don't we set up a meeting with Sarah again? Would it be helpful to have another person involved?
Yeah, anything would be great. It's a lot. Figuring out,
Yeah.
and being consistent.
And I talked to Sarah and she can help too. Because I think there is a lot of overlap between like what the DDA and Explore Fraser might want to be doing and
Yeah.
promoting. So I don't want to put it all on her, but she can help take some of it off of your plate, hopefully.
Lori, were you bored or needing work? Wanting to have fun with any of this?
Yeah, I've got some time for the next month or two.
Because like, it might just be like 45 minutes a month is what I would say. And
Okay.
just strategize using Hootsuite. Or if you're pre-programming like stuff and then you don't have to think about it again.
I can help, that's nothing.
Super. All right.
Out there.
Let's jump into ski train in 8 minutes. So let me pull up the email I sent you all, and then I will do a new screen share. So I have talked to a few businesses. Again, this would be great if you guys are out there, if you are able to talk to different businesses, and try to kind of bring them on board. I think it's fine I think we can create some promotional materials and still, particularly if they're digital, have, a business 3 weeks from now, be like, I'd love to participate and just kind of add them. But the idea is just that we're trying to promote people using the ski train and then that they do a stop in Fraser and try to drive some traffic to local businesses.
So they should definitely, you should link to the Fraser Valley Arts Instagram feed. Because, for example, on the 13th of February and the 14th, we'll be doing the National Theater Live Fleabag in the middle of the day.
Perfect.
So somebody can get on the train, come up here, see the play, turn around, go back home.
Yeah, and I think the more events and reasons for somebody that maybe is not skiing or maybe their family is skiing, to actually just come up and spend the day in Fraser, spend the night, spend the weekend. I feel like that traffic might be more realistic than trying to get somebody who's skiing to take the effort to get on the lift bus, come to Fraser.
Yeah.
But, if there's a really nice happy hour, they want to check out the distillery or a brewery, maybe they do because they can get on the train here as well. So trying to kind of capture those different groups, but really promote.
Let me ask another question. I know the ski train stops at the resort. Can you stay on the ski train and come to Fraser?
Yes, that's the idea. It's now stopping in Fraser, so they can get on and off.
Take a bus to Fraser and have a drink or.
Correct.
And get back on.
Yeah.
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 Or you could come do something in town, go to dinner, and then get back to the train.
It'd be cool to see some sample itineraries of what a day like that would look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So somebody could be like, oh, it's not as complicated as I'm making it.
Or if the resort actually has some reels that look like that, where they're like, hop on the train and then and then be here at the summit, they do kind of do that, not like time, but like they kind of show a day in the life of the ski train. The reels are really engaging, so we can look at those too.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to put like the punch time into it, because
Yeah.
what I noticed with wedding guests, they literally have to be like. You know,
Given an itinerary.
into like every hour of their transition from off the plane
Yeah.
of the town.
Does anybody know if the ski train's been delayed a whole lot? Like, I know if you're going to Linwood, you're definitely gonna get delays, like every time.
I think the ski train has priority.
Yeah, that's what I would check no, the major. I mean, someone told me like, oh, it's playing right now. I'm like,
Yeah.
really? That's 3 hours?
Yeah, just seeing it come in and out of the resort, it doesn't, because Amtrak, it is right. I am surprised when it actually shows up. I think it's supposed to be 3:35.
Keep in mind that Zephyr is coming from Chicago.
Yeah.
So there's.
No, not
Yeah.
yeah.
I think part,
Yeah.
Morning should not be delayed, so it's like a 5 hour layover in Denver.
Yes.
Parks brings up a really good point. We might call it the late train. I think all of the restaurants and breweries, et cetera, in Fraser get a fair amount of traffic from the train way. And the conductors will actually walk around and tell people when to come and not.
To the businesses in
So
town?
we call that the late train.
Yeah. So
They can be fun.
well, I was gonna say the idea is kind of promoting the ski train. I would encourage us to do it if they have a ski train or an Amtrak ticket. And promote the Amtrak as well.
Yes.
I've talked to a few businesses. Angie says Fraser River Beer Company is happy to do buy one pint, get second one off. Olivia at Simple Coffee, $2 off a cup of coffee or glass of wine or beer. Home James is doing 10% off your Home James booking. So that could be a return trip. They're also starting to offer on-demand services. It's somewhat on demand. You're supposed to book it 24 hours in advance, or you can call and if somebody's available. So, Anastasia was going to do $15 off a massage. Katie Fisher seemed interested. I sent her an email to confirm. So I don't know, Barry, I know I mentioned this to you, if the distillery wants to offer something or Camber. Can you send that to me so I have that? Okay.
Like, so he's interested in it. He was online, but talked about it. And I said that is also interested. That's not just that. Very briefly.
Okay.
Nothing concrete, but.
I think Camera was gonna do like $2 off each pint or something like that. So
Nice.
I'll be able to
$2
take it
off a pint. Okay.
up every pint, yeah.
And then $2 off every pint. Get them good and
With your ticket.
liquored
yeah.
up.
Hey, they're riding the train.
Right? No,
That's true.
that's the point. That's the point.
It's a way to promote the train, the deep down business, but to promote the train.
I think we're talking about, Camber gets probably the bulk of the delay. Well, this is speech, but also think about the other one, because we get the bulk of the delays. So like, getting them to like come in and actually like, not just sit and wait, but actually.
So I can work with Sarah to try to put together a flyer and kind of get some digital marketing out. A couple questions in terms of how one gets the promotion. I think it seems to work for businesses if they just show their train ticket. I've been saying on the day of travel. I think if a business wants to expand it beyond that, they can, but I think in terms of just promoting this, it's good to have some consistency in what we're promoting.
Yeah, yeah.
What other questions did I throw out there? So we can put it on social media, both through the DDA and through Explore Fraser. It might be worth, again, if we're to have something at Fire and Ice, that might be a good time to try to promote it.
Working with the marketing department at Resort and their work.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Any thoughts on kind of a slogan, hashtag? Fraser ski train, explore Fraser.
We gotta be careful.
Explore
Ski
Fraser
trip,
tracks.
They're not calling it that. It's the Winter Park Express.
Right.
So we need to confuse people.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in terms of promoting Fraser businesses, we
Explore
can,
Fraser's great.
the what?
Explore Fraser. You know, and then, have we got a deal for you?
That's used for like a lot of things, right?
Right.
So it could get muddled.
We could combine it, explore Fraser tracks.
Yeah.
Fraser
Or
tracks.
do like if
Ski
it's a
tank
print
train to
thing,
Fraser.
you could have an image of the train. And have Explore for Fraser or something like that. So you're combining the established brand with.
Right.
The thing you're targeting.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
I do, but I'm not ready.
Train running late.
That's more for Amtrak versus.
Yeah, I just heard back from Birdie Lounge. So they're looking to offer buy one, get one, well tapped beer and wine. Offers good for the first beverage, limit one per person. They've added $45 Mondays to the events at explorefraser.com. She's got some other questions, so I'll get back to those, but yeah, so if you're out talking to businesses or able to talk to businesses, I do within my, I'm trying to reach out to some, but I have a certain amount of capacity that I can give to this. So I would love to have you guys talking to folks. Tiffany, thanks for talking to Simple Coffee. And then once we have it up and running, helping to promote it, but kind of, I believe it goes through March. So trying to jump in sooner versus later. But if you're good with those details, I will send those out to the mass email to Fraser businesses and then work with Sarah to just get some promotional materials up. Any other thoughts?
Any other business or updates?
I do have a quick one. So a bit of a FYI and then a suggestion. First for the FYI, this Friday, Fraser Valley Arts will be doing our first iteration of National Theatre Live, which is the theater from London. Benedict Cumberbatch will be doing Frankenstein. We've already sold about 55 tickets. And we're having to work with the Foundry's schedule and their brokers. So it's going to be at 1 o'clock. So if you have a food or a libation business around 3:30, 4 o'clock on Friday, there will be somewhere between 55 and 70 folks who will probably be looking for something to do. And I mention that because in February, we'll be doing Fleabag, hopefully 2 shows. And the series will continue in March and then into July with Hamlet. The point there is there's business opportunity there for all of you who have those types of businesses. And if you'd like to partner with us, offer a discount on a drink or something, we'll be happy to promote that so that there's spillover traffic to your businesses. All the information on these events is on FraserValleyArts.org. Or just talk to me. Secondly, we just put out a press release this morning saying that a local Fraser resident has committed up to $1 million of challenge grant. They're going to give us $500,000 no matter what. The other $500,000 we have to raise and they will match it, which I'm pretty optimistic we'll be able to do. And we also got a National Endowment for the Arts grant just this month. So 2 really important steps. We're now over $3 million in committed assets. And I'm starting to think that the possibility of groundbreaking is within the next 2 to 3 years.
Wow, that's so
Which
exciting.
would be really cool. And then the last thing, piggybacking on that, one of the things that is clearly going to be on my agenda for this group is to consider some measure of DDA funding over time towards the center. And in order to inform that decision, I don't really need this because we're going to do the center no matter what. But I would think it would be helpful to this group and to the public to have an economic impact analysis done of what the center would bring to all of the Fraser businesses and particularly the DDA ones. And so one of the things that I'd like to explore, and I had a very kind of superficial conversation with Troy about this, is what that analysis might cost and how we might pay for it. I'm happy to pay some of it from FBA. As I said, I don't really need it, but I do think it would inform our decision. And so, if everybody's comfortable with that, what I'd like to do is do a little legwork over the next month and have on the agenda a discussion about that come February, so we can see if that's something we want to do. Does that make sense to folks? Cool, so we could add that to the agenda.
How's our agenda looking for February?
Full.
Will that be February?
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Let's spread it out a little bit.
Yeah, let me,
And then what we can do, if as our board, if we can make a long-term commitment, which I see again, because you would be doing that with developers, like a percentage of
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, I've got a couple models in my hip pocket, like 1% for the arts or
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But I think we definitely need to address that.
Yeah.
well, and Katie, at this stage, I think if we put it on February's agenda, it would just be to see if we wanted to move forward with having Troy do some sort of
Got it.
analysis.
Perfect.
Yeah, versus actually doing a funding commitment.
Okay, got it.
Troy is too expensive.
Yeah.
But I'll do some legwork into that. I don't think frankly it should be FBA coming to this group with our analysis, because we're biased. Having an independent person do it, I think is a better model, because we have to defend it to the public.
Gotcha.
So.
And I know just-
appreciate Troy
yeah.
as one option, he's not the only option.
Well, and I was gonna say in initial conversations with Troy, and I'm gonna circle back to him with Lori, he has some reservations that his duty is to the DDA and making sure that concerned that maybe the information he gives wouldn't be the information that Fraser Valley Arts would want to see. So we'll talk through that and see where we're
Troy's
at.
really, thank you.
Coming to February.
And again, that's my point. He's not the only solution.
Yeah.
More, I motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
All in favor, which is all of us.
Well, no, second.
Second, fine.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
I
Need a better note system. Yeah. I got here.
Thank y'all.
It's okay.